What is going on, YouTube comic community? This is Pope G, and I got some books to show you guys. I have eBay purchase. Um, I went to some local comic book shops. I say local, but like 45-minute drive, I guess, for these LCSs. That's would be Lexington. I bought some books for cover price, and I got a lovely stack I found in the Spankies, and I also bought some books from a comic book website, and I'll get to those. What should we get started with? Let me go ahead and knock my eBay purchase out of the way. This is Victory #2, Series 2. Uh, I actually paid $1 for this. It's just a beautiful cover. Basically, I just had to pay for shipping, and there was just like a small little crease in it, and but it was easily pressed out, and so I was very, very happy to get a hold of that. Um, where do I put these? So many books, so many books. This I got from the actual publisher, Keen Spot. This is Ninja and Robots. This is issue #5. They had a sale going on, so I hopped on it. Here's a variant cover. Probably my favorite, one of my favorite covers from this run. But this is by Steve Mannion. And I picked up another copy of that. I just really like his art style. I picked up 2 copies of this, issue 8. Get some butt cheek action. I say she got the snake hands. So, yep, got 2 copies of that. This is a really beautiful cover. This is issue #9. I have a few copies of this, but I just picked up an extra one. And I was looking for this, and thank God they still had these in stock. Uh, but I went on some like other comic book websites, uh, you know, to see if they had this, but they were all sold out. But I didn't even think about going to the actual, like from the source itself. But this is Bonnier. This is issue #1. It's a really cool cover. But I absolutely love this cover, and I picked up 2 copies of this. Definitely love the anime style. So I got 2 copies of that. And that's all I got from like eBay purchases and like a web store purchase. I guess I'll jump to this one store, the first comic book store I went to. But they had this was free and was pretty cool. This is the DC manga sampler, so I thought that was pretty cool. Very interesting. Gotta see. I just realized. All right, I found them. There's something. There's something really cool I gotta show you guys from the next store that I bought, but this is still from the first store. Paid cover price for these. This is a Jay Lee cover of Night Terror's Wonder Woman. It's horror and has some of my favorite characters. It has good old Constantine, and Jay Lee is one of my favorite artists. Um, I found Witchblade and Wolverine. So I basically paid for these books like $4 each. Found Fearless Dawn meets Hellboy. It was super cool to find this. This is Creepshow issue 5. An absolute awesome cover. And what I really like about this is I'm a big fan of Clay Chapman, who's an awesome horror writer, and he's done some stuff with Spider-Man. But like, you guys need to look up Clay Chapman. Like, he is just phenomenal. Like, he pumps out like horror books. Uh, he's dabbled in like horror comics, and he's a playwright. So we actually done one of his plays at my theater. And what's cool was that one of our professors is really good friends with him, and went to school with Clay Chapman. Uh, and they like, our professor brought him in uh, to our college when we were doing one of his plays, and he was a really cool guy to meet. And yeah, it was just really, man, it was just, man, the guy's just phenomenal. He has this really cool I don't even know, I'm hoping they still do it, but he's based in New York, but he does like this horror like storytelling that he calls like the Pumpkin Pie Show. And it was like a regular thing they had going on in New York. uh, but I'm gonna have to look back into it. But I mean, like, it was just so cool meeting him. Like, and this is like right before like he jumped into comic books. Like, I was just so excited because I'm a big comic book freak, and like, I ran to the professor that introduced us to Clay Chapman, and I was just like, "Do you know that he's like doing a Spider-Man book, and like he's getting hooked up with this like these indie films and stuff?" I was like, "This is awesome." But uh, he would read from some of his books, and I say read, but he memorized like some of these like short stories that he done, or he'll like just uh like tell us the story like a few chapters of a book, but like he would like just get into it, and he would just walk. He was walking around the classroom, and like, like, just, man, like, if you ever have a campfire and you need someone to tell a scary story, like, Clay Chapman is your man. Uh, but definitely look him up, guys. He's very interesting, very cool. Uh, but the last book I paid cover price for at this store, and I absolutely love this. And they had two copies of this. Like, I try to find these in dollar bins, but I never had any luck. But this is my absolute favorite Punisher story ever. And this is like, it was like a mini series, but this is my favorite cover of Punisher. I'll just show it to you. It's just phenomenal. This story is hilarious, and I absolutely love it. In fact, my friend Wes, who did the Kickstarter for Hard Justice, is the one that he bought me like the whole mini series. I think it's just like 4 issues, but he was like, "Dude, you're gonna love." He's like, "You're gonna love this." He's like, "This is right down your alley," and he's right. Uh, it was so good that I had to show my wife, and she thought it was hilarious. I was like, told my wife, I was like, "If you ever read any of the comics that I have around in here, I was like, this is definitely one you have to read," and it's just great. So now I'll jump into the books I found in the Spankies, because this was the only comic book store uh, that, not the only one, but out of the two I went to, this one was the only one I had dollar bins. The other one, I'll talk about the other store in a minute. It's like there's some good things about it, and then like there's some bad things. But anyways, back to the Spankies. Found this Batman Superman number 27 with the Huntress Power Girl. Found this Unleashed. It's from Triumphant Comics. This is issue number 0, and it's limited to like 80,000, which is a lot. So it's not a, I guess it's not a hard, obviously not a hard book to find, but I've never seen it before, and so I was glad to find that. I found some Silbuster, some it's an anime book. I found issue 16. Issue 17. And what was good about this, and it's like I always like when I like get to like dollar bins and like there's like nobody around the dollar bins. Like the store was a little bit busy, but like nobody was diving in. And I like to hit this particular comic book store because like after you wait, like, I don't go up there many that much, but when I do and you hit the dollar bins, it's like there's like just it's like a fresh run. Like all the dollar comic books that's in there is like, or it's always new. There's like like always finding good stuff in them, and I always end up with like big stacks, and then I like kind of go through like which ones do I really want to take, and sometimes I'll have like, my stack will be this big, and then I'll have like out of that stack that much of them are just maybes, but then while I'm going through, like I'll find definite more definite ones that I'm taking home with me. So then I'll just like take those out and put them back in the dollar bins. But it's funny how I do, because by the end of me going through all the dollar bins, I'll have like a stack like this big, and then I'll like, start going through like which ones do I actually really want to take home and which one's not. But this is one that I walked away with. This is Poison Hills, number 28. Obviously, cover by. I found another one of these. This is the Savage Dragon versus the Savage Megaton Man, issue 1, which I think there's only one issue of this. But this is the first appearance of She Dragon. Uh, and this is a book I was surprised to find in dollar bins, because I remember when this book first came out, I just couldn't find it anywhere. Everybody was sold out of this, and it was just one of those books, I guess, that like everybody just kind of hopped on. But luckily, my friend Wes had an extra copy of a different cover of this, and I was like, sweet, because I was trying to get this book, and like it was nowhere to be found. But I found it in the dollar bin. And this is I guess, I don't know if this is regular cover or a variant, but this is Mega Ghost issue 1. So it's cool to see that in dollar bin. Like this book, I just picked up just because of the fear, like just the pure like beauty of like the cover of it. It's like when I show it to you, you understand. This is like, Vice City, definitely Vice City, and like the background like this reminds me of Saved by the Bell, like the intro to Saved by the Bell. But it's just called Slash Maraud, and I've never seen this, but like all I could think of was like late 80s, early 90s, and all I could think of was Saved by the Bell and like, hold on, I'll get a little closer so you can see that background. Uh, but definitely has like Vice City vibes coming off that. Uh, and I actually flipped through this, and it's it, it's got a weird premise, but yeah. Uh, Picked up Gen 13 number 9. Just some J. Scott Campbell goodness. And I really like this cover of Gen 13. This is issue 14. Uh, and this kind of like, I really like this cover because this really reminds me of some like back in my like high school, middle school days. Like this was like a common, like, I guess kind of like dress that some of my friends would wear, or like people I'd see in school wear. And I don't know, it's more like nostalgic. I picked up this The Trials of the Flash. It's one of those like mix-ups of like an alternate Flash. Uh, this was a really cool find. I've never seen this before, but this is the original Magnus Robot Fighter. Uh, I'm wanting to say, even though this is issue number 1 of this, uh, I'm wanting to say it reprints like the original issue of number 2. Uh, but like I saw this cover and I really liked it, and it reminded me a lot of like God, what's his name? Johnny Quest. There's like some very big Johnny Quest vibes coming off of this. I don't know, and I just really liked that style. I found this in the dollar bins. This is area number 1, a Midwinter's Dream, but it was like a mini like Ashcan comic. Uh, so I picked that up, and I thought this was really cool. This is I found this Adam Hughes cover. Obviously, when you see Adam Hughes art, it kind of just like it's right there in your face. This is Rapture and Ricochet issue 4, and I didn't even know they had their own like comic, I guess. But I thought that was really cool. Um, yep, I found some more Deathmate Black, uh, which is the first appearance of Gen 13. I found 2 more minty copies of this. Always pick them up. And as if you guys have been listening to me recently in videos or following me, that you know that I'm starting a Rune kick. And um, at the very end, I was like, there's a whole bunch of like Ultraverse and Malibu comics, but like I was like, oh, I'm flipping through them. And I was like, oh, I'm about to hit a big stash of Rune. And I was like, oh, like I was looking for Rune and Sludge and like nothing. And then I got down to like the last few dollar bin boxes, and like I hit some like Rune jackpot stuff. So like yeah, I found issue number 1, like all in minty condition, and obviously they look great in Mylar. Uh, and then I found a few of issue number 2. But I haven't read any of them yet. I think I'm just gonna look for like a graphic novel, or since I have multiple copies, I may just like have like a reader's copy. So that's all I got from that comic book store. And so like this other comic book store I went to, like the good thing about it is that like it's huge. Like their inventory is insane. Like they had like two other like little warehouses that like, I mean, you couldn't go in there because that was their like inventory, but there was like just like it looked like Indiana Jones when they like when they're putting the ark away and there's like all these comic books everywhere, comic book boxes. Like it was like that, but like their main room, like there's just like, every like it was one of the stores like I had to walk around before I really started like jumping into anything because like there's just so much sensory coming in that like my eyes just kept going everywhere, and I was just like, holy shit. But there's a weird like they didn't have any dollar bins, and which is fine. But sorry about that phone going off. I'm not gonna edit that out, by the way. But like the crazy part about this is that like like I said, there's no dollar bins, but the good thing is that they have so much stuff in there that you can find like a lot of indie books that like other comic book stores just don't carry, and like other books like a lot of horror stuff that uh like because other comic book shops don't really carry them, and but this place like just has everything, and they have a lot of graded books, which I'm not much of a. Well, I mean, I like graded books, but I don't really like going to comic book stores and like hunting for graded books. I'll flip through them. They used to back in the day. This comic book store, I mean, they would price, their uh, like he used to have dollar bins and used to have like back issues like you could go through, but like what I don't like about it is like he turned into like an eBay store, so you can't really like go in there and find stuff. Uh, but I mean, like unless it's marked like they'll price it as like cover price or whatever, or if it doesn't have a price on it. This is the interesting thing I've never seen before, but like I'm just wondering if you guys have going to comic stores that have these stickers that they put on there. It's like the fair market value, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, what is that? And then I realized that when the guy was just like, oh, if you see anything you want and there's no price on it, he was just like, we'll give you like the fair market value, like when you get to the register. And I was like, so I mean, like a lot of the stuff in that store like didn't have prices on it. So like if I come up with a stack of books, not knowing like what the price is, like if I see one book and I don't want to pay this amount for it, and like, you know, I don't want to pay for it, so I don't want to like. I know you guys know, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but like, it just sucks to go through like a place like because I've been in the comic book shops, and I know you guys have, and I know I'm ranting, but you'll go through and you'll find all these books, and like a lot of times you'll think like these things are dollar bins, and then you get up to the front, and then they like start looking shit up on eBay, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And like, you just have to like you spent like an hour and a half to 2 hours or whatever in the store, like finding like these gems, and then like you bring them to the counter, and they're like, oh, like eBay's asking that. It's like, no, like, no, like you just depleted like the fun of like going like bin diving, and like if you're not going to do your job and go through your own inventory, like you're not going to do your own homework, and like don't expect like pulling out keys or books that you think are going to be hot or whatever, and like don't expect your customers to come into your store and like spend hours in there like getting books, because like a lot of times like I hit a dollar bin and get a big stack. So like they're gonna get like $50 out of me anyway. But like, but I also like will like cruise around like what just came out, and a lot of times I'll even look at their wall books, or like I'm gonna make more purchases than just the dollar bin. But if I spend all that time like looking for stuff, sifting through what I think is a dollar bin, or like nothing's priced, and I get to the register, then like you pull up the old eBay, it's like, no, man. Like, if you want to, like, if that's what your goal was, then like what you need to do is like go through your own inventory. You do the work. Like, don't expect your customers like to go in and like pull out all these keys, and then you're like, oh, thanks for putting like 2 hours of your time into finding these keys for me. Like, it's just, they're basically just getting free labor out of you, because like, you know you find a key book in there, and they're like, oh, this is like a $60 book, and you're like, but it was in like a dollar bin, and they're like, no, those aren't dollar bins. Like, but I do have to say, at least this store was like upfront, and was like basically like tells you that like if it had the sticker on it or no price on it, then it's like eBay stuff, which I really appreciated, because I didn't have to spend like a whole bunch of my time like going through their stuff, because like if it didn't have a price on it, I just left it there, because I wasn't going to go up there with a big ass stack and just let them eBay every single fucking thing that I want. Like, I know I'm getting a little heated, but it's just like, god damn, like, dumb, dumb. But anyways, I know I ranted, and I got on my preacher stool and gave it to you, but that's how I feel about it. But I went there because there's some things that other comic book stores don't carry, and uh, at least I knew like everything I bought was like already priced, and I paid cover price for all these. But this is Queen of Swords #1. This is let me get that glare out there. This is an undressed variant, and they always come in these like they're blocked with like a censored like cover. But I think those are cool too, because like they usually have like artwork on it, and whatever, censorship is fine. This is like definitely, I guess, one that should have been censored. uh this is another variant of issue #1, and I had no idea like what these covers looked like, so it was just kind of cool. I was always peaked, and I always talk about like especially like with like, I like how Image like and Vault do their stuff like that. I think it's kind of funny, and because I know they did a lot with sex criminals. They had like these, they told you it was like a censored cover. Like, they didn't actual censor the cover, but like they they put these like boards in front of them with artwork, like letting owners know that like there's probably like sensitive material on the cover. Uh, but I mean, like, I'm saying like 100 times, and I apologize. But I'm always interested in like this stuff. Like for this particular book, it says for mature audiences. But like, you know, the censorship in comics to me is it's just interesting. And I know I talked about it in multiple uh, videos of me, but because I'll find like a Marvel book, because Marvel did it with, I think, like the Max, like they're calling themselves like the Max run of Marvel, that they were trying to get edgier and I guess more adult themed. Uh, and DC did it to an extent, and then like, they broke off and did Vertigo, which was still uh, like DC comics and even DC characters, but like there was more just adult themes and stuff in it, and more darker. And then DC did the Black Label, so which I think is funny. To me, it's just funny because it's like you have Vertigo, and then you basically like took Vertigo and brought them to the DC universe, and then you created like DC Black Label, like to do your darker themes. And it's just like, why did you just it? Like you had Vertigo, like I don't know if it has something to do with sales and be like, oh, there's this new Black Label thing, like we're getting some Johnny Walker and reading the adult DC books. Anyways, I'm ranting. But I found a variant for Black Demon Tales #1. Sharks, 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 sharks. So it's all about that. Maleficent is one of my favorite villains. So here's the DC variant for Maleficent #1. And this is a homage to like the VHS tape cover. And I was super happy to find this because none of my comic book stores had these in. They sold out. But it's the Infinity Gauntlet, the Disney variant. Like, I had to get my hands on this. And they just happen to have 2 copies of it. So, super excited about that. And then last, well, no, not last but not least, but I did find this, and I was happy to find this, but I just happened to look, like, there's so much stuff in the store. But they had a container that had, like, a whole bunch of these Star Wars insiders. But this one was just in the front, and the cover of this is just so badass that, like, I had to get it. I can hear my little Rugrat running around in the background. So that was really cool. But the last thing I'll show you guys is, this is really interesting. I've never seen these before. But I'm just wondering if you guys have ever seen these. But this is digital comics and collectible cards, but they're called comic tags. And I picked up 2 of these, but this is We Don't Kill Spiders. But apparently, I guess it has a comic code to get like the comic, like the digital comic, and then there is I guess a collectible card in here. But I've never seen these before. They had they had 2 different Scout comics there. I can't remember what the other one was called. But I do have the issues of We Don't Kill Spiders, so I just picked up 2 of these. But I mean, you guys like see these out there. This is the first time I've ever seen these. They could be, obviously there's a collectible card in there, but it just might be a collectible in itself that, like, that they like just made like a small little packet for the comic book codes. So I found that very interesting. But that's all I got right now. I do have a small stack of stuff that I got from Kickstarters. I'll do a different video for those. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching. Support each other, and I'll see you next time. This is Pope G.